Hello guys, how are you doing? Let me trust you're doing good. Welcome once again to this video. Today, I'd like us to discuss about laptop with no display. Sometimes we experience hard time determining or fixing that issue. So today, I'd like us to narrow down the cases. We discuss what are the things we need to consider, what do we need to check, because we really encounter a lot of problem while determining that issue. Sometimes you might not be sure whether the problem is the screen, the BIOS, the motherboard, and so on and so on. So, allow me to share the screen because what you are discussing, we are starting with the theory. Okay, I don't know whether we'll have time to discuss about the practical, but I think theory will be enough for us. Yes, actually, it's not hard. That's why we are going to just use these notes I have here. So, just give me 1 second. Yes, and here is my screen. Yes. So, laptop with no display. We need to start with the introduction of it. When you say a laptop with no display, what does that mean? It means the laptop's power is on. Yes, sometimes even it might not power on fully, but nothing appears on the screen, be it the external display or the internal, that is your normal screen. Yes. So that is the problem. When you don't have, sometimes your laptop can power on or it doesn't power on at all, and you find that there's nothing on the screen. We term that case as no display. So let's see some of the features. So the screen may stay black. Yes, sometimes you find your screen is just black. You might see the LED, be it the power LED or whichever LED you can see in your screen, or even the LED from the keyboard, you might see it. Fan may even turn on. You might hear the fan spinning and still nothing on the screen. Sometimes you may hear a pip sound. That is when the laptop is asking for the RAM. Or you might see faint backlight but no image. Yes, sometimes you might see the screen somehow fainty, but still no image. So these problems can be caused by, it could be an hardware problem, software issue, or the connection issue. When you say hardware issue, it means the part of the laptop which are tangible, be it the screen is faulty, the motherboard is faulty. Software issues like the firmware for the CPU, that is the chipset firmware. You could be having the BIOS corruption or the driver's problem. And when you talk about the connection, maybe the VGA cable is not connected properly or the screen is not connected properly. Yes, that still will affect the display of your laptop. So let's see some of the symptoms of the not display. Yeah. Laptop can turn on lights or fan. You might see the lights or you might hear the fan spinning, but the screen stay black. So backlight sometimes present but no image. You might see the faint screen just glow faintly, but there is no any image. Sometimes you might see no backlight at all. Yes, completely dark. Yes, sometimes some people call it the screen is displaying from inside. Yes, you might hear a beeping sound. That is the BIOS speak codes for the RAM or graphics issue. There's something called the error code. Yes, whichever model of the laptop, they have what's called error code. Those error codes, sometimes it means something, be it asking for the RAM or the graphics is the problem or the chipset. Yes, those things, those beeping are called the error codes. Sometimes you might be having external monitor which works, but the internal screen does not. Yes, that is when you connect your external, maybe you use HDMI cable, you connect the TV or whichever external monitor you have, you might see the display, but within your laptop, you might not see any display. So this thing, both the internal and external monitor show nothing. Yes, sometimes you might find that the laptop is fully powering on, but there is no any external display. That is when you connect through the HDMI to your external monitor or your internal monitor. It might also show nothing. Yes. So next, let's see some of the common causes of this no display. Yes. What are some of the things which causes this problem? Yes, we are going to discuss them so that whenever you have an issue of no display, at least you can try to narrow down the problem. Then it will be easier for you to diagnose and fix that problem. You know, if you have no idea actually what is causing those problems, it will not be easy for you to fix that problem of no display. That's why it's good to understand. What are some of the factors which causes no display in your laptop? So let's start with the external or user level. Yes. So sometimes you might find that the screen brightness is set too low. Yes. Someone else might set your screens to too low, and you might not know how to adjust the lighting back, and still it will affect your display, because if it is a daytime, I am sure you cannot see any display on your screen. It needs nighttime so that you can see what is on the screen. Sometimes you might be having a faulty or the loose cable, that is LCD cable or ADP cable. Yes, that cable, sometimes we call it the display cable or the VGA cable. But now we are talking about the cable which is connecting the motherboard to the screen. Yes, a cable like this one. You can see this. So this is the cable we are talking about. Again, you might have a damaged screen. Yes, your screen might be damaged like this one. You can see this one somehow broken or there is something wrong with it. Yes, that's a damaged screen. You might be having a faulty external monitor settings. Yes, maybe your monitor settings is maybe your HDMI cable or something is wrong with your port, and you might find that you will not have any external display. Yes, so you need to be sure about that. So before you say you don't have external display, you check whether the port is good or the HDMI cable is good. This first screen here, you see the light has been set to too low. Yes, if this is set here, it means you will have a dark screen. Yes, so you just have to adjust that lighting back so that you can have a visible uh, screen. Next, let's see the hardware related issues. Yes, what are some of the hardware problems which can cause no display? Number one is the RAM issue. Yes, RAM issue, you might be having the loose RAM. Yes, as you can see, this is the RAM stick which has been inserted into the RAM slot. We could be having the loose RAM, so meaning that there is poor contact between the RAM and the RAM slot. When you have that poor contact, meaning the RAM will not be able uh, to work properly. Next, you might be having a faulty RAM stick. Faulty RAM stick is this RAM stick. Yes, as you can see, this second image here, there's some corrosion with this component. There's a tiny component here next to this NAND. So this is one of the NAND. This is an electronic storage chip for the RAM. Next to it, there's a very tiny component there which is corroded. So that one is deemed to be faulty RAM stick. Again, you could be having dirty RAM contacts. As you can see, this last RAM slot here, yes, it seems there are some dirty things here. I don't know whether it is corrosion or what, but still, this is a problem. Yes, this affects the contacts between the RAM and the RAM slot, and it will uh, cause a problem of no display. And how do you fix that? If it is a loose RAM, if you have a loose RAM, you just remove it and reset it back. So we say you reset it back. For this one, if it is a faulty RAM, try to clean or replace this component. If it doesn't fix the issue, you just have to change the RAM stick. You just have to replace the RAM stick. Then for this one, you clean this. You clean this the RAM contacts. Yes, using the isopropyl alcohol or the home dry and the brush. You just have to clean it. Yes. Sometimes you might be having broken pins for this RAM stick. Yes, these pins might be broken. You can try see whether you can loop it back, or you replace the entire RAM stick if you have several pins which are broken. So there is no way you can fix each and every one of them. What you need to do, or the easier way to fix that, is to replace the entire RAM stick. Yes, it is replaceable. Yes, when you have broken pins with the RAM sticks, it is replaceable. You can just replace the entire RAM slot. Next, let's see the motherboard issue. Yes, the motherboard issue, you might be having a problem with the GPU, the GPU failure. The GPU is the graphics processing unit. Is a chipset which is responsible for enhancing the images in your laptop. Yes, if that chipset is faulty, it means you will have a problem with your imaging, and that affects your display. So common in laptops with dedicated graphics, yes, because we have two types of graphics. I believe I discussed in my previous video. We have what's called integrated graphics and dedicated graphics. So the motherboards which have dedicated graphics, they experience this problem with the GPU failure most of the time. Again, you could be having the CPU failure, rare but possible. Yes, if your central processing unit is a problem, still you will encounter the problem with the display because this is the chipset which is responsible for processing all the data which has been input into your computer. So if the CPU is faulty, it means those data cannot be processed. Hence, it will be there will be nothing to be displayed on the screen. Yes, and of course, this CPU will not function at all. Again, you might be having the BIOS corruption. Yes, this is the firmware. So BIOS, these are basic input-output system of your computer. So if the BIOS is corrupt, so meaning you will have a problem. This is common though. So if the BIOS is corrupt, the BIOS, this is the firmware which is responsible for ensuring that there is communication between the hardware system of your laptop and the software, especially the RAM. It ensures that the RAM is communicating with the CPU. Again, you might be having faulty capacitors for the ICs in display power lane. Yes. In case you have shorted capacitors, or corroded capacitors, or any component along the line or along the circuits which affect the display line, still you will encounter the problem with the display. As you can see, these images show some of the issues which affects your computer. For example, here there is a display of a BIOS corrupted. As you can see, it is showing the BIOS updating BIOS or the firmware update. So it means this is the BIOS corruption. Again, for this one, as you can see, this broken pixels of the display. So it means here you have a problem with the GPU. This is the GPU. This one's the GPU. So both could be the GPU CPU problem. And then here, when you see blue screen, this one is called blue screen of death. So the blue screen of death. So this one it means the CPU is dead. Yes, whenever you see this display on your screen, it means you have a big problem with your CPU. Mostly over 90% of this problem, when you see this blue screen, this type of blue screen, over 90% of it means the CPU is dead. Yes. So you need not to waste more time. When you see this one, it means you need to replace your motherboard. Again, you could be having the problem with the screen controller. So this is the screen. Here is the screen panel. Yes, if this is faulty still, it means there will be nothing to be displayed on the screen because this panel is dead. Hence, there will be no any connection between the motherboard and the screen. Then, apart from that, you could be having a screen or display issue. Yes, if you have a burnt backlight or faulty LED panel, yes, the LED panel is that small motherboard found at the screen, below the screen. If that motherboard or if those components below there are burnt, still you will have a problem with your display. Again, you could be having inverter failure. In older screens, you have CCFL backlit in laptop. So this is what's called what? The inverter. So here you have an IC which is responsible for power supply to the screen. If that IC is bad, still there will be no power on the screen, and obvious there will be nothing to be displayed on the screen. Again, you could be having broken LVD or EDP connector. Yes. For example, this one, as you can see, this one is broken, and then you have another one here which is damnly corroded. Yes. So these problems affect your display. If your laptop is behaving this way, it means you have a big problem with your display. Yes, because this is the connector which connects the motherboard to the screen. So guys, bottom line, these things, you can see most of the things I'm discussing here are the things, if you're keen enough, you can see them physically. So meaning when you're trying to fix any problem with your laptop, make sure you keenly inspect your laptop or the hardware components. Yes, because you can see most of the issues I'm discussing are the things which you can see. Yes, apart from the software problems, so any other things are the things which you can see physically. So even before you decide to declare your laptop dead or before you decide it's beyond repair, make sure you do the inspection thoroughly. And of course, you need to measure some of the voltages which is needed. So next, let's have a discuss about the software and the firmware issue. So BIOS corruption after update, yes. Sometimes you might find you updated your laptop or you did something onto your system and the BIOS get corrupted. Once the BIOS are corrupted, you will encounter a problem of no display. As you can see, these past two screens here, this is showing some BIOS being updated. Yes, and sometimes you find your laptop keep repeating or looping this process. Yeah, it might update until the end, then it redo it again. So again, you might be having incorrect BIOS display settings. As you can see here, you can see this is the BIOS setup menu. So there's some booting setup you need to do. That is called the boot order. So sometimes if you didn't set those setting order correctly, you might find that your laptop will fail to boot into your hard disk into your Windows, and you will have bootable device not found. So you need to understand how to set those boot order and also how to ensure that you have the correct boot order. Again, OS boot failure, that particularly in BIOS should still show. Yes, yes. If you have OS boot, if the OS boot failure is having an issue like this one, in case you have your laptop displaying this way, it could mean you have a wrong BIOS setup. That's why you need to go into the BIOS setup and then you need to correct that problem. So let's see step by step. Let's see step by step diagnosis of these problems. Step number one, you need to do what's called basic checks. Yes. First of all, try to increase the brightness, that is event plus brightness key on your keyboard. On your keyboard, there is a key which shows uh, the brightness settings. So you'll press Fn plus brightness key. Then you try to set your brightness back. You see whether the issue was about the settings. Next, connect to external monitor. Maybe you can use the VGA cable, HDMI, or display port. You check the external monitor whether it is displaying. If external monitor works, it means the issue is with the cable, the screen, or the GPU output. Yes. If the external monitor work. So if it doesn't work, it means you could be having more problems with your motherboard. That's why you will proceed to the motherboard issue. So if your external work, it means your problem will be a bit easier because now you will be focusing on either the screen or the cable. Next, remove all the external devices, that is the USB port, that is the USBs, external drives. Yes, after that, next is do what? Do the RAM check. RAM check. Yes. What do you need to do? You power off your laptop first. Once you powered off your laptop, remove the battery or the adapter if it is plugged in. After you've removed any power source, that is after we remove the battery and the power supply, that is the adapter, remove the arm stick, clean the contacts with the eraser, or you just have to clean it clearly. Then after that, you reset your BIOS. You reset your BIOS. Once you reset your BIOS, then it might solve your issue if you had a problem with your RAM stick. If your RAM stick was dirty, or if your RAM stick was faulty. If you have multiple sticks, in case you have several RAM, that is, if it is more than two, maybe two, three, four, or what, because gaming laptops have more than two RAM sticks, you need to test those RAMs one by one. Yes, because in case you have a problem with the RAM stick, still you will encounter the problem with the display. Yes, it doesn't work like if you have a problem with one stick, the laptop will work on the other sticks. No, you need to remove the faulty RAM, then you need to work with the good ones. So sometimes you might be having the problem with one RAM stick and the entire laptop is not displaying. That's why you need to check one by one by using what's called elimination method. You're trying to eliminate which RAM stick is the problem. Yes, and then after you've tested one by one and still you have an issue with them, you can try to test with non-good RAM. You know, as a technician, I know you not fail to have a good working RAM on your table. That's why you need to at least use one of your good working RAMs to test. Then step three, you need to check the battery and power receipt. Yes. We normally call it draining the motherboard. Yes, you need to reset your motherboard. So to reset your motherboard, you need to disconnect all the power. That is the power adapter, the battery. After that, even the same as battery, you need to disconnect the two. Then hold your power button for at least 30 seconds. Yes, you need to hold your power button for at least 30 seconds. You try as if you are trying to power on your laptop, but at this stage, you don't have any power plugged in. Then after that, that one is mean resetting the static charges. After you've reset your motherboard, you put back all the power. That is, you connect back the battery and even the charger. Then try to power it on again. As you can see, this guy is removing the battery or the CMOS. I believe this is the battery. It's connecting the battery. You can see. Yes, I remove the battery. Then you press the power button. Here's the power button. As you can see, this hand is pressing the power button. You need to hold for about 30 seconds, at least 30 seconds. So meaning you could hold it for 45 seconds, 1 minute. Then after that, you put back the battery, connect back the battery. You can see the battery is being connected back. After you connect back the battery, now you press the power button again. Yes, at this point, most of the time you find that this issue solves the problem of no display. It resets the BIOS and your laptop will be back to life again. Then step 4, let's see about the screen and the cable check. How do you check this? Check if there is a faint image appears under the flashlights. So as you can see this first image, you can see this guy is using flashlights to check whether you have the backlight problem. So once you see this, it means now you will be dealing with the issue of no backlight. And if it is a problem with no backlight, what you need to do first is to use another screen. Yes, use another screen. You see whether it will display clearly. If not, if it's still having the issue with no backlight, now you know the problem with with the motherboard, and you need to go back into the eject the cable, that is the VGA cable, then back to the connector from the motherboard, check for the fuses there, whether they are blown up, or check for anything within the motherboard. Again, you can wiggle the screen. So this is what's called wiggling the screen. Yes, to see, sometimes you might wiggle this way and it displays correctly. And then you might wiggle at the back, you find that it is flickering. Yes, if it flickers, it means you have loose or broken the LVD cable. That's why you need to do that. So you wiggle your screen first. If it flickers, it means you have an issue with the cable. If it didn't, then you will proceed to the motherboard issue. Then broken or loose LVD cable. And to fix that, you need to replace the cable, or you just have to dismantle it and see whether it is one wire which is broken. You can solder it back together. Then again, you replace the screen or the panel to test. Yes, that is, you use another screen, you test whether it will work or not. Yes, when you have a screen displaying this way, this could mean you have a problem with the screen or the motherboard. Yes, so this is a very dangerous side. So whenever you see this display on your screen, this is not good. These ones are easy. These ones are very easy. These ones. But when you see this, yes, the chances of this surviving is minimal because this is a sign of a GPU problem or the CPU issue or the chipset. That's why it's very dangerous sign. Next, step 5 is the firmware. So how do you check for the firmware? First, try to enter the BIOS setup. Yes, F2 for the Lenovo, F10 for HP, F1 Acer, Dell, delete for Dell, and so forth. Okay, you have F12. Okay, you will not miss to get these setups because you can even Google. Yes, you can just Google BIOS setup for Dell. You will get the which key. You power on you shut down your laptop, switch it on. Before it powers on fully, you need to press the BIOS key. That is, if it is F10 or F12, several times until it takes you to the BIOS setup menu. Yes, depending on your brand of the laptop, you can use any key of those. If no BIOS, maybe the BIOS chip is corrupted. Yes, if you can't go into the BIOS setup, you need to refresh your BIOS using the programmer. So these are some of the, so you can see this the BIOS setup menu. So these two screens are BIOS setup menu. These are the BIOS adapters. You can use them to read or write your BIOS. So these are the programmers. So this one is called RT 809F. So these are programmer. You can just purchase them. Yes, they're not expensive. They're about 12,000 Kenyan shilling, somewhere there. So one of these adapter you can buy with that. Then you can also buy the cable. It comes with the cable actually. Then you need to get these adapters where you can put your BIOS chip inside that you can connect it here, then connect it into a laptop which have the software programmer. Then you can program or reflash your BIOS. Step 6, this is advanced level. Yes, next is advanced motherboard diagnostic level. Next, test the voltage on the screen connector. Yes, it will have either 3.3, 3.3, and 19. You have two 3.3s which are for the backlight. Then you have 19 for the main power lane. At this level now, testing the voltages of screen. This is when you have external display. When you don't have external display, you will avoid this. Yes, just leave the screen alone. But if you have external display and you've connected you've tested with another screen and still you have an issue, you need to check the connector whether it is having these voltages. Next, you check the CPU section with the turbo camera whether the GPU is overheating, or with the multimeter you check whether you have the low resistance there around the GPU CPU. I know the meter will be peeping, but you will have some reading to show there is a resistance from the CPU or the GPU. Oh, you can use the thermal camera. That's why this is an advanced level. So meaning at this point, you are now in advanced level of repairing your motherboard. That is the chipset level. So meaning next you check the GPU section with the thermal camera. Look for short circuits near the GPU CPU. Yes, these short circuits could be the shorted component or could be the corrosion. Yes, sometime here around there, you might find some corroded components here around the GPU, around the CPU. Yes, so this is the GPU around there. You might find some corroded components or shorted or maybe blown up VR MOSFETs or blown up capacitors or fuses. Next, if you have dedicated graphics, if dedicated GPU, you need to try to reflow it or disable the GPU in BIOS. You need to go to the BIOS setup menu, then disable the GPU if you suspect the GPU is the problem. Again, you can reflow the GPU, but being careful again because do not overheat this chipset. Yes, you can reball it for the dedicated GPU. Integrated GPU, it could mean the GPU is the problem. Next, solutions. First, we say we adjust the brightness if you suspect the issue is the backlight problem. Then after that, you reset the laptop. Resetting the laptop or the power circle, you remove all the power supply. Then after you remove all the power supply, you press your power, your switch for at least 30 seconds. Then reconnect back the power. Then power on the laptop again. Again, you can connect the external monitor. You see whether you can have uh, external what external display. So this one, sorry, where are we? Yeah. So these first solutions here, this is as a user. Yes, from your these are basic solutions you can try at your own. Then once you fail to fix here, you can now take to your technician, whereby technician can try to clean, reset, and replace the RAM. So this is the technician level. Yes, don't try this here because as a user, do not try. Nevertheless, you are more careful. Can try, but being careful. If you didn't fix here, you can take to your technician, whereby technician can try to clean, reset you, and replace your RAM, replace LCD, EDP cable, can replace faulty display panel, replace inverter backlight, and all the models. Yes, so those are the things which the technician can do for you. And then you have advanced level, advanced repairs, that is chip level. Reprogram your BIOS if corrupted. Yes, if you know your BIOS is corrupted, you can reprogram it. Reflow or rebuild your GPU. Common in HP and Dell with AMD graphics and NVIDIA chips. As you can see, this guy here is trying to reload the chipset. Yes, you have the graphics here. Here is the nozzle for the hot air. Then you have the GPU below there. Even this one is reballing the chip. Yes, so this is the reballing workstation. This is the BGA workstation. So this is the chipset which has been rebuilt. So replace the faulty GPU or the CPU, repair display power ICs on the motherboard. So those ones are the advanced repair level. Preventive, how do we prevent these problems of no display? Yes. How can we prevent the problem of no display? First, avoid dropping or pressing hard on your laptop lid. Yes. When you have your laptop, do not press too hard on it because you might break your screen. You might cause any damage onto your laptop and it might encounter the issue of no display. Again, keep fans clean. Fans clean, so this is a ventilation of your laptop. Yes, as you can see, this one is all dirty. Yes, if you have so dirty ventilation here, it means there will be no hot air escaping and your laptop might experience overheating problem. Once the laptop overheats, it might it will cause a problem to your motherboard because you find that the solder balls will start melting below the GPU, CPU. You might even find the capacitors getting shorted and so many things. So different preference of heating and GPU failure. Yes, if you have your laptop overheating, the GPU will fail. Use stable power source to avoid voltage damage. Yes, if you have a stable power source, you will not encounter the issue of power surge. That's why you need to use the stable power source. So meaning you will also need to be having what a very good adapter. Next, update BIOS carefully. Yes, because if you update your BIOS wrongly, it will corrupt your BIOS and you will encounter still the problem of no display. So bad update can bring no display. So next, you can see this one is you need to clean up this dirty ventilations. Screen user, if you want to wipe the screen, use a very smooth and uh, and a clean sponge. Again, when you're removing the screen or closing up, press it, close it without any force, without applying any force. Again, updating BIOS, make sure you update the BIOS correctly with the correct file so that you can avoid the problem with the BIOS getting corrupted. Next, let's have a look at the brand specific notes for HP and Dell. If you have a problem for HP and Dell, and I'm not saying this is the exact thing you need to do, I'm saying higher possibilities. Your Dell you might encounter what's called it's known for GPU. So the Dell and HP they are known for GPU failure, and their solution for that is reflow or reball oven required. Lenovo's, yes, most Lenovo's they have a problem with the cable damaged, common from frequent lid opening and closing. Again, Lenovo's they have an issue with the blown up fuses. So the connector of the Lenovo sometimes you have it there's some fuses there and they are known for blowing up. For the Apples, yes, for the MacBooks, their main problem is about the flex gate issue. Yeah, that cable, that's the display cable for the MacBook. They have a thin display cable which wears out over time. That's the main problem. For Hazer and the Asus, it will encounter the screen backlight power circuit failure, which are very common. So in summary, our first aspect should be the RAM. Next, display cable, screen panel. If no display, check for the BIOS, the GPU, CPUs. If external monitor works, replace the internal display component. Okay, not component actually. If the external monitor works, you can first test different screens to confirm whether the screen you are having inside was the problem or not. If not, again you can attempt to use a different cable if you have. Then next, if you don't have the cable, first you need to check for the voltages. You measure the voltages if you have any voltages with that display cable. If both fail, it means now you have a problem with the motherboard and the motherboard needs to be repaired. Yes, so the notes has been a bit longer. I didn't expect it to take us this much time. Yes, but I'm very grateful. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you for being patient for our discussion. And I really appreciate you guys. So, yes, and that is the end of our discussions today. So, guys, thank you so much. And please, I'm still requesting you guys, please subscribe to our channel and share with your friends. I really appreciate you guys. When I see someone is viewing, someone subscribed, it gives me motivation, and I'm glad. I'm very grateful. And guys, again, in case you have an issue with your laptop, we do repairs, so you can just contact us. We see how we'll get your laptop here. You'll have your laptop here. We can, and then we will see how we will help. Again, if you're interested in learning about laptop repairs, we also teach. We also teach. Yes. So, guys, thank you so much, and see you in the next video. Do not forget to subscribe. Yeah, goodbye.